Now we're ready to set up our event call on our animation. So let's take another look at our animation by pressing play, pressing 1 to arm ourselves with the sword, and then right-clicking to trigger that attack animation. Okay. So now we got to find that animation in our anim list, and if you remember in the project folder, we can find the animations under All-Star Character Library, Roots Anim Female. And we see here right at the top, there's an animation called Base Female One-Handed Attack. Now, I bet this is it. So let's go ahead and click it. And again, if you don't get the preview window, make sure that the Animations tab is selected at the top of the inspector. And now let's go ahead and preview this by pressing play on the timeline. That looks like the right animation to me. Again, we have 2 stages. I'm going to scrub through this very slowly. The model brings the sword overhead and then brings it down in the attack slash there. 2 stages. Stage 1, bring it up ahead, and then stage 2, bring it down. All right. So let's first of all make sure that we have the right animation. Let's preview it. And then let's double check when we press play, press 1 to bring up our sword, and then play the animation. Yep, looks like the right animation to me. Then we choose which frame we want our sound to play on. So this is the first stage right here that I'm scrubbing between. And we want the sound, again, we want the sound to play a couple frames before we would otherwise think. So I want the event to be called about right here. And let's see how that sounds. Now, once we found the position on the timeline, remember that we're going to go to the events menu in the inspector. And to the left of the timeline, there's a button that says add event. Go ahead and click that, and we get our animation event editor window. Under function, we type call event, which corresponds with the function that we imported earlier and added to our avatar. And then under string, we pass the name of the event that we want to call. Now remember that we're adding audio to the pre-swing stage of this attack animation. So we want to call our pre-swing event. So under Wise, we have pre-swing and swing. We want to call pre-swing, select it, press F5 to make sure you're in the event editor. And then just to be double sure, I highlight the name here in the name field, right click, select copy, and then in Unity, right click in the string field and press paste. The object, of course, like as we mentioned before with the footsteps, is going to be the object that we want the audio to play from, and we want it to play from our player_01 game object. So type that in the search field, player_01, and then select the player_01 game object from the asset window. So now we have all of our fields filled out. We have our function, the string, which is the name of our event, and the object to play from. We now have everything we need to call this event when we play the right animation. So let's go ahead and test. Hit play. Press apply. Select 1 to bring up your sword, and then let's trigger that animation. All right. So we have our pre-swing event playing when we trigger the animation. That's great. Now all we need to do is finalize the swing part, or the second part of the animation, which is when the avatar brings the sword down right there, that motion. And as we mentioned, we want to add a really heavy swoosh along with the scrape sound. So let's go ahead and set that up in Wise. So remember that we want this heavier swoosh to play, which is much louder than our pre-swing swoosh, and we want to add this scrape sound. And the way that we do that, again, just like we did with our footstep run final event twice, or rather object, we want to combine 2 different containers, and we do that by using a blend container. So let's create a blend container under our default work unit, and let's call this attack swing. and we're going to drag our scrape object into attack swing, and we are going to drag our swing whoosh object into attack swing. So under attack swing, we are now playing our swing whoosh and our scrape 01, and it's going to sound like this. See how that scrape really adds a nice sharp attack to that whoosh. It really sounds deadly. However, because of the high frequency content, it's very loud. So we're going to drop the volume of just the swing sound effect by about 6 dB. See how that sounds. Click on your attack swing blend container and audition it in the transport control. Sweet. That sounds pretty darn good. So now let's go ahead and add this attack swing blend container to our swing event. So as you can see here, our swing event is missing an action. It doesn't know what to do. So let's go ahead and click and drag our attack swing blend container and drag it to our event editor window, and we get a play action. And we get a play action that will play our attack swing blend container. So again, we want to audition our event, see how it will sound in game. We select our swing event, and then in the transport control, we hit play. That's exactly what we want. And now all we need to do is save this, save our Wwise project, and then press F7 and click generate. Now, as a reminder, you can see here which events are included in your player sound bank, and we have pre-swing, swing, and footstep events, which are the only events that we are currently using in this demo. So let's go back to Unity, and now we want to call the swing event on this downstroke of our one-handed attack animation. So let's go ahead and pick which frame we want to add this to. And this is about where the model will start the downstroke. So that's about where I'm going to call the event. For now, remember, let's go to events, open up the events timeline, and add our event right where that playhead is at. And as you can see, the string is filled out, but it's not the correct event that we want. But first, let's fill out our function field with call event as always. And then for string, we want a different event. We want our swing event. So press F5, and you don't have to do this. If you feel confident enough, you could just type it in. But I like to copy the name of the event from the event editor, go into Unity, and paste this. Right-click and paste it in the string field. And that should be all we need. I just hit enter, X out of that, Control S to save it, and then hit apply here, and that will stop those confirmation windows, warning windows from coming up. All right, so now I have a pre-swing event there, and I have a swing event here, and let's see how that sounds in game. Let's hit play and test it. Now that's our unarmed attack animation. So we press 1 to bring up our sword, and then right-click to trigger the animation. So here's what I think, observing this from a sound design perspective. It's good, but it's not good enough. We can make it better. And what I want to do is I want the pre-swing to actually start earlier, and I want the swing to start earlier as well. So I'm just going to move both of those event calls back in the animation timeline. I'm going to just select it, and I'm going to drag it all the way back to basically the beginning of that animation file. And then for the swing event, I'm going to add it probably about here instead. So as you can see, in the timeline, I just clicked and dragged both of these events to a little bit earlier in the timeline. I want them to be a little bit snappier in the animation. They feel like they're lagging just milliseconds behind in the animation. So let's go ahead, now that we've changed the timing of those events, let's go ahead and hit apply in the inspector and then test it out in our demo. So go ahead and press 1 to bring up your sword, and then right-click to trigger the animation. Now that feels a lot better. All right, so congratulations, you've successfully added audio to your first attack animation. You can now go through and pick more attack animations and add audio events to those if you want. For example, the two-handed attack animation. Let's go ahead and take a look at that by pressing 2 to bring up our two-handed sword and right-clicking, and that's going to be probably a heavier swing, and everything's going to be pitched maybe a little bit lower, but it's still a pretty quick animation. But you're still probably going to use the same principles of pre-swing and attack swing, and then also I want you to remember that even though we added footsteps to the unarmed run, those footsteps will not play if we have our sword equipped. And the reason is because this is a different run animation than our unarmed run animation. You will need to add footsteps to the one-handed combat run as well, and to any other footstep run cycles for any other weapons you may have. But we do have a sound for our one-handed attack. And thank you very much.